Hey everyone, today I'm going to tell you an amazing story about Shaka Zulu, one of the most powerful leaders in African history. Shaka, whose full name was Sigidi Ka Sensengakona, was a strong and smart Zulu king. He lived in southeastern Africa, in the area between the Drakensberg Mountains and the Indian Ocean. Back then, this region was filled with many small groups called chiefdoms. During his short time as king, Shaka managed to bring over 100 of these chiefdoms together into a powerful Zulu kingdom. Even after Shaka died, this kingdom survived attacks and attempts to break it apart. Shaka's father was Senzangakona, the leader of a small Zulu chiefdom. His mother, Nandi, was the daughter of a Langjani chief. Stories about Shaka's childhood come from spoken tales, so the details aren't always clear. Some say Shaka was born in his father's household before his parents were officially married. Others say Shaka was born in Langani territory at his uncle's home, because his parents' relationship was not accepted. There's even a story that Shaka's father tried to deny that Nandi was pregnant, claiming she had an illness caused by an Ishaka beetle. Eventually though, Senzangakona accepted Nandi as his third wife, and Shaka spent his early childhood in his father's home near what is now Babanongo. Shaka's parents had a difficult relationship, and eventually, Senzangakona forced Nandi to leave. Nandi and Shaka found refuge with the Langani people in the Amklasuze Valley. Life wasn't easy for Shaka there. He grew up without his father around and was bullied by other Langani boys. At that time, two powerful groups controlled the area. The Mthethwa, led by Chief Dingiswayo, and the Nwandwe, led by the fierce Swidi. During a terrible famine around 1802, Shaka and Nandi moved to the Mthethwa people, where they stayed with one of Nandi's aunts. Even though this was a safer place, Shaka still faced teasing and bullying from some of the Mthethwa boys who looked down on him. As Shaka grew older, he discovered his strengths. He was tall, strong, and had a natural ability to lead others. Around the age of 23, Shaka joined one of the Mthethwa regiments, and this changed his life. Being part of the Izikwe regiment gave Shaka a sense of purpose, and the battlefield became the place where he proved himself. His bravery caught the attention of Dingiswayo, and Shaka quickly became one of his top commanders. During this time, people started calling him Najumlazi, which means the one who makes the earth rumble when he sits. Shaka was fascinated by military tactics and learned a lot from Dingiswayo, which later helped him become an even stronger leader. When Shaka's father died around 1816, Dingiswayo gave him the support he needed to take control of the Zulu chiefdom. Shaka defeated his older brother Siguzana, becoming the new Zulu leader. At first, Shaka still followed Dingiswayo's orders, but he was allowed to expand his territory. Shaka began conquering nearby groups, including the Buthelezi clan and the Langani people, the same group that had bullied him as a child. Around 1818, Dingiswayo died, and some claim Shaka betrayed him, but there's no solid proof of this. What is known is that Shaka's forces were missing during Dingiswayo's final battle. After Zwei captured and killed Dingiswayo, Shaka took control of the remaining Mthethwa people and combined them with his own army. This allowed Shaka to grow even stronger and continue expanding his kingdom. Zwei, determined to stop Shaka, launched a huge invasion into Zululand in 1818. Shaka pretended to retreat, tricking Zwidi's army into following him deep into his territory. Once they were exhausted, Shaka's forces struck back and completely defeated them at the Mklatuze River. This victory crushed Zwidi's and Nwandwe kingdom, forcing survivors to flee north. Groups like the Jeri under Zwangandaba and the Mese led by Naba escaped, but Shaka's army eventually defeated them as well. By 1826, most of the remaining Nwandwe had either submitted to Shaka or joined his forces. By then, Shaka had become the most powerful leader in what is now KwaZulu-Natal. During his 10 years of rule, his warriors kept expanding the kingdom by attacking nearby groups and taking their cattle. Groups that resisted were often destroyed, while those that accepted Shaka's rule were allowed to keep their leaders, but under Shaka's control. And after Shaka became the leader of the Zulu, he changed the way his warriors fought, making them stronger and better organized. One of his biggest changes was the type of weapon they used. Instead of throwing long spears called assegais from a distance, Shaka designed a shorter spear with a wide blade for stabbing. This allowed his soldiers to fight up close, staying in tight groups with their large cowhide shields forming a protective wall. This new way of fighting gave the Zulu a big advantage in battle. Shaka also created a special battle formation called the Horns of the Buffalo. The main group, called the chest, faced the enemy head-on, while two smaller groups, called the horns, moved around the sides to trap the enemy. This tactic worked well, helping Shaka's forces win many battles. Shaka kept his army strong with strict rules. His soldiers weren't allowed to wear sandals, and had to run barefoot across rough ground to toughen their feet. They trained constantly and were often sent on long campaigns to improve their endurance. Only after proving themselves in battle could they wear a special headring that showed they were now men and could return home to marry. To build unity, Shaka grouped young men from different areas into regiments called amabutho. Each regiment had its own name and settlement, which served as a military base. These settlements had herds of cattle for food and for making shields. Shaka even organized the cattle by color to match different regiments. Women were also part of this system, though they didn't fight. They lived in their own groups, participated in ceremonies, and were sometimes given as brides to male soldiers when their regiment was allowed to marry. Until then, relationships between men and women in the amabutho were strictly forbidden, and breaking this rule often resulted in death. Shaka's royal homes were managed by powerful women from his family, especially his aunts. These women handled affairs when Shaka was away. Shaka never married because he feared having an heir who might try to take his throne. Any woman suspected of being pregnant with his child was put to death, adding to his reputation as a harsh and feared ruler. Shaka's military system greatly changed Zulu society. By gathering young men at military settlements, he brought more power and resources under his control. The kingdom's cattle herds grew larger, and the Zulu became proud of their powerful army. However, Shaka's campaigns caused terrible destruction. His wars killed many people and forced entire communities to move. These events reached far beyond Zululand, even affecting regions north of the Zambezi River. Leaders like Zwangendaba, Mzilikazi, and Shoshangan fled north, leaving chaos behind as they created their own kingdoms. This period of conflict became known as the Mfecane, a time of violence and upheaval across southern Africa. By 1824, Shaka controlled a strong kingdom along the eastern coast. That year, European traders arrived at Port Natal. Shaka welcomed them, hoping trade would benefit his people. He allowed the traders to stay, and even sent his own representatives to form ties with the Cape government. In 1826, Shaka built a new military settlement called Dukuza, closer to Port Natal. While Shaka kept peace with the settlers, his rule became more cruel over time. His harsh punishments and constant demands made life harder for his people. When his mother, Nandi, died in 1827, Shaka's grief turned violent. Thousands were killed for not showing enough sadness, and entire communities were forced to take part in mourning rituals. Shaka's cruelty eventually led to his murder. On September 22, 1828, Shaka was killed near Dukuza by his half-brothers Dingane and Umshangana, along with his guard Ambopa. As he lay dying, Shaka warned Dingaan that the swallows, a reference to the European settlers, would one day take over the land. He also predicted that his people would turn against one another. Both of these predictions came true in the years that followed. After Shaka's death, Dingane took power, but the Zulu Kingdom remained a major force in South African history. The powerful army Shaka created left a lasting impact on the region for years to come.